righty. Hey, and good evening, everybody. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is This Week in Prophecy. I hope everybody's doing well today. It is the beginning of the week. It is Holy Week, folks. In a couple more days, it is Easter, and hopefully you've all been just gearing up and hopefully getting ready for Easter. Really, it's been a very interesting season this year, unlike any other season. I think I really do. It's we hope everybody's just getting good with their whole holy season. And before we get going, folks, we've actually got the show up. It is actually let me get to that page now. We're actually the show is up on our This Week in Prophecy page. I'm going to get to it in just a second. And if you want, you could get in on the conversation. If you don't, just go ahead and write to us at thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. It's thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. We'd love to get you in on the conversation. What would be a show be? What would This Week in Prophecy be without Aaron Newton? Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. Just going through it. We can talk about it lately. It's been a little tough this week.
It's been a little tough. Well, you've got this brand new car you got, and I was going to say that before we went on. I was going to say, Aaron, it's, maybe you're having a hard time because you're not letting me drive your car.
Yeah, no, there'll be none of that.
You don't think that's the issue?
Nah, you can come over and drive it in time. It's not like it's funny too, because it's not like a car like where you just get in and go. There's like little things that you have, you don't just like, I don't know how to explain it. There's just little things you got to do to get going. It's almost 100 years old. So yeah.
Yes.
There's like a lot of little things you got to get going.
So Aaron, I know you have a picture. I know you have a picture of your car on your phone. Probably. Now, have you gotten a little Hot Wheel for it yet? I'm going to get you one of those.
Actually, I've been looking and I can't find one. All I can find is like the 4-door convertible.
Okay.
And so, I can't find. I've looked for Hot Wheels or like a die-cast model or even a model. Like I'll build the model.
1/8 inch. And eighth.
Not that
quarter tenth scale or whatever it would be, or whatever scale it would be.
Yeah, I can't find one.
So describe your car, because somebody's listening to the show, and maybe they'll get it for you. So describe your car. What year is it?
It's a 1936 Dodge D2, but it's not original. It's a custom car. So, it's got the like 14s in the front and the 16s in the back, and it's got Krager's, and then it's got it looks like I didn't change. None of the body style is different. It still looks like the car, but it's not like missing the hood where you see the engine, even though it's got really nice, really cool engine. Actually, I was doing some research about it the other day because I was looking at the build sheet for the car, and I was doing research about the engine. And so it was built by this guy in Gardena or somewhere in California.
Yes. And
it said it was the original Johnny Black custom build. And I was like, oh, who's that? Yeah. So I'm looking online, and this guy was like the man when it came to build racing engines.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I know the engine came out of a racing boat. And so, I was like, oh, that's really cool. All right. And then, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool car.
And of course, what's the color on it? Because you forgot the color.
Oh, it's purple. Plum crazy purple.
Plum crazy purple. So, folks, if you're gonna find this car, it's gonna have a plum crazy purple color. So you got to look it up, because that's a custom color there. Yes.
Yeah, it's a custom color. It's it's a pretty cool looking car.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, I'm so excited for you. Now, so Aaron has called me up, or I've called him up, and he goes, "Hey, would you like to drive in my car?" And so what did he do? so he did a FaceTime with with the phone, and he gets in his car, starts it up, rum, 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 and then he goes driving down the road. So I'm virtually riding in his car. That's what friends are for,
Yeah.
right
Well, we live on the other side of town, and like rocks are chipping the paint
there.
already. So I'm like, I don't want to drive it far.
So it's a great car. I fool with him about his car. I love cars. My wife Linda and I, we used to do car shows, so we did it for quite a while. And so every time I hear somebody, I totally get about your car, and because they're definitely they're closer than most people would really realize. People who are car guys, your car gets to be a part of who you are. Um, I would assume you've already changed your Facebook profile picture. Say it ain't so.
Oh man, you gotta call me out. Yeah, I did. I did the little circle one. I just put a picture of it in there. That's it.
Yes, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It just,
I
it is what.
did.
Yeah, because that's your calling card now. That's your
Oh, I'm very
calling
proud
card.
of it.
Yeah, it's very nice, very nice. Um, but you said so this weekend. I was we did a show earlier, and had Pastor Tommy on it, and you know Pastor Tommy,
Yeah, yeah.
and so we were talking about that we went to a seder with him over the weekend. Um, and so you were there at the Seder. And so for folks who don't know what a Seder is, it's basically it's an annual dinner that Jews all over the world have, and it's a commemoration. It's a commemoration of when they left out of Egypt, and so they commemorate it by having these courses of throughout the dinner and stuff like that. And so we were all a part of that this weekend. So, Aaron, what did you think of the Seder dinner?
I thought it was really cool. It was different, you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'd never been to one. I didn't even really understand what it was, and then but sitting down and the guy who led it, the pastor, I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
his name, but he
Mm-hmm.
really went into detail of what this means, why we do this, why we
Yeah.
do this, what this means. And so like, when we were eating what was it, like parsley with salt water, or and the salt water and this and that, he explained what every little piece of it meant. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
this is really, I understand now, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a lot of things where he said, well, this is why do we do this? Just tradition, and so,
Just tradition. Sure. Just tradition.
but
Yeah.
yeah, like when he had said, you dip your finger in the wine and you sprinkle it on the food, and that's, represents this. And I remember seeing that in movies, people doing that where they would dip their finger and go like that. Like, oh, okay, now I understand what that means,
Maybe
so
that's why they did that. Yeah. And
yeah.
I think those nuances of learning about our history of our Hebrew history just makes us a little, I don't think it makes us much smarter. I think what it does is it actually gives us a deeper connection, because now you're starting to understand from a Jewish perspective, and we've talked about this before, where we as Christians have the New Testament. So you look at, everybody has their Bible, of course, and we look at our Bible and we go, okay, and the most familiar part of your Bible to most Christians is the New Testament,
Oh,
right? And
right. That,
and
yeah.
right, it's a New Testament, and that's kind of where we're at. Oh, I'm going to change my earbud here because one earbud's
Okay.
going crazy. Um, so most of our understanding is of the New Testament, and we equate everything to the grace portion of the Bible. Well, we're missing something, because there's a whole Old Testament, the Tanakh, right? And
Hmm.
that's what the Jews go. The first 5 books of Moses, that's their wheelhouse. Um, and the Jews are missing part of it. So they're missing the grace part. They're really a lot of the law, a lot of the festivals, a lot of the annual stuff that we don't know anything about. And so to go to something like this, where we were at today, kind of gives us a view of where they're at. And hopefully these completed Jews, they call them completed Jews, that they'll start looking at where we're at, so that they know that the Messiah has already come. Because a lot of them are still believing Messiah hasn't come yet. right? And so,
Yeah.
very cool. So, what do you? I mean, what do you? You know, what do you think of that?
Well, I I don't like. I never really was taught any of those things, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
in my time being a Christian, and I thought about it not that long ago. I think you and I have talked about it. Why do we don't? Why? How come we don't celebrate these things? Didn't Jesus celebrate them? Didn't Paul and the other apostles? Didn't they celebrate them still even after
Mm-hmm.
he had ascended? So why do we discount these things? Is it because that's the way we were taught? I don't know. Like somebody decided, we didn't need to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kind of, but I think it's, the Old Testament, the amount of prophecy in the Old Testament, it's just, there's so much. And I think that also these festivals is celebrating what God has done for his people. Why would we not celebrate that? That
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
that also is, like these are things, the Exodus, that whole part of them him saving them from Egypt. I mean, that's God showing his glory to the world. Why would we discount it or not even pay any mind to it? I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's this God's glory, in such such a huge amount. I think that we should celebrate these things. I
Sure.
don't see anything wrong with it,
Yeah. So why do you think Christians, modern day, this side of the cross Christians, do not celebrate any of, for the most part, don't celebrate any Jewish traditions?
Yeah, that's tough, right? Because I
Yeah.
don't really know where replacement theory or geez, why we don't.
Yeah.
I don't really know where that started. Why people just decided that that's for the Jews and we're Christians and we're different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't. It's tough. I don't know where
Yeah.
to say where that
Sure.
how that started.
Yeah. I would assume that it was a gradual thing. I
Hmm.
don't think it was an all of a sudden, we don't want to, nothing to do with Judaism at all. Because but I think it might have been a slow thing, or it might have been um, uh, a thing that happened once you started getting translations of the Bible. Because there was always this thing with people hating Jews, right? There was, I mean, hating Jews is not a brand new thing, right? I mean, it's something that has been going on for centuries, where the Jews, from the places, every place they're going, they're being hated. Philistines, these people, that people. The Romans hated Jews, you know. So, but then Roman Catholicism came in. You had Constantine, and you got all these these people all of a sudden became Christians. Did they start hating Judaism because they saw what happened to Jesus Christ on the cross?
Yeah, that. I mean, I don't really know how it started. Again, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that started, but if you can look back in history.
Yeah.
So let's say during the time of the bubonic plague, right? Um, so what happened there is, the it infected the rats, the fleas on rats were infected, and it traveled, through what do you call it? The Silk Road, and it just kind of traveled to Europe, so they can predict what the next town was going to be affected because they thought it was the air that was carrying it. They didn't know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it was. So what they would do is, of course, the first thing, Christianity was so prevalent in Europe at that time, where everybody was Christians, but they were uh, going to church as a Roman Catholic and not being able to read the Bible for themselves or even understand the sermon because it was in Latin. They just kind of did whatever that pastor or priest, said. And the first thing they would do when they knew, like, okay, it's at the town up here, let's gather up the Jews and we're going to torture them until they confess.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I remember reading a story, and this man, they were gathering up the Jews, torturing them, and he said, fine, we were putting it in the water. So from then on, they would take all the Jews in their town, round them up in a wood building, and burn the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, they blame the Jews for the bubonic plague.
Okay.
Then, then if you read like a German history, you have you know, like World War II, they were saying, oh, this is the Third Reich, right?
Yeah.
Which means kingdom, and it's going to last for 1,000 years. Well, we know that Jesus is going to rule with an iron rod for 1,000 years. It mimics, it just mocks the Bible in a way. But the Second Reich, the First Reich, the first one was Catholic, um, um, that kingdom of Germany or whatever, and they were targeting people, but they were really big time on targeting Jews. The second one was the Kaiser, same thing, World War I, and then the third one was World War II. But you see this narrative play where they target Jews and they kind of blame them for all these things gone wrong. They blame World War II. They blame the Jews from World War I. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they lost the war, over and over again. And did they have something to do? I think there's many centuries, just things would pile up
Yeah.
against, oh, the Jews did this, the Jews did it. So they had
Yeah.
so many, all these things. But where it started, like, I don't understand. I think that they thought, you killed Jesus, so you're bad. But
Yeah.
even though Jesus said, I'm coming to the Jew first
Yeah.
and then the Gentiles, right?
Yeah. So let me let
So
me let me interject something here because I was just reading something as you were talking. I was listening too, but I'm going, Lord, there's got to be something simple to this whole thing. And it was confirmed with some of the reading I just did. Very quickly I did it, folks. So by no means am I saying that I'm a scholar on why Gentiles, the Christians, do not celebrate a lot of Jewish stuff. Well, the answer lies in Jew versus Gentile. The majority of Christians are Gentiles
mhm.
who never celebrated Jewish stuff, who never had a background in it. And so why would we think that because they come to follow Jesus that they would all of a sudden start following Jewish traditions? Because we're not under the law, right? So it makes sense that yes, it might have had to do with um, other things, but I think one of the primary things that makes sense to me is that Christians are Christians are generally Gentiles as opposed to Jews, because most Jews are still raised to this day with those traditions, and it's been passed down from town to town to town, from time to time to time. It doesn't really matter when it is; they're going to always celebrate that stuff. And Gentiles have never. I don't know about in your house. In my household, never. My mom had matzah all the time in the house. She ate matzah balls. That's pretty the extent of Judaism in our household, other than the Bible itself. Uh, but in my household now, I've got a Tanakh. We study Hebrew all the time, just because I think it's important that we understand this. Um, are we ever going to become Jewish? Probably not, because we're not. But do we want to know how our Jesus lived? Do I want to understand my? I do it to understand my Bible more, as opposed to as a cultural thing.
Yeah, I mean, all of the I mean, Jesus was a Jew, right?
Yeah.
He was Jewish. All of the apostles were Jewish. I'm sure they taught it to all the Gentiles about, this is why we do this stuff. But somewhere there was a disconnect. Somebody said, we're not doing that. I mean, if you go to Israel now, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these like trips you can take where you walk the path to Jesus and stuff. And the
Sure.
Jews, they'll spit on you. The Hasidic
Sure.
Jews, they'll spit on you and curse at you. You know what I
Cause
mean? So maybe they just didn't want to have anything to do with them because of that.
Well,
you know?
here's the interesting thing also. Remember when Paul was going around and he was, converting these Gentiles and everything else. And the apostles went, "Hey, what's up with this? Dude, those are Gentiles. They're supposed to be doing this and they're supposed to be doing this and they got to be circumcised, they've got to be eating this and they got to be." And then all of a sudden the Lord gave them this epiphany. They're going, "Don't stop those people, those Gentiles, from receiving the same thing you've got." So the stumbling block that the Jews thought was something that was supposed to be a part of their traditions in their life. I should say this: the things that the Jews thought were what made them Jews was they were now making that a stumbling block for the Gentiles. And God said, "No, that's not going to happen." Remember, food, because they were eating certain foods. They were going, "Oh, you can't eat these certain foods." We are not under the law, so so really the Lord said, "Don't do that. Don't 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 require these Gentiles to do this stuff." So that might have had far reaching effects on other Gentiles who said, "No, I'm good." Other than circumcision, I mean, really circumcision. I think I was reading this right here. They were talking about in AD 50 AD. They were talking about circumcision. Should Gentiles be circumcised? Okay, in their flesh, is that mark in their flesh? Okay, that's something that still goes to this day. I think it's a personal thing, to tell you the truth, where people are at. Does the Lord say that you have to be circumcised? It is
Yeah.
now a circumcision of the heart, right?
Right.
Not in the flesh.
Yeah, you're right. It that was a big deal back then because even Paul and Peter had, a kind of a falling out
Had a
at that
falling out.
time with the
Sure.
circumcision party, because he's like, whenever they would have their services,
Mm-hmm.
Peter would go sit with the Jews and the circumcision party, and
Yes.
Paul's like, what are you doing?
What are you
You're
doing?
just picking sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then God showed Peter, like we talked about last week with the sheet and the
The sheep.
food, and he's like, I've never
Yep.
let those touch my lips. He's like, well, now you're going to,
Now you're going
now
to.
you're going to see. Do not discount whatever I make clean, which means the food, no
Yes.
uncircumcised. Now it's the heart, like you said. So I've made this clean for stop stop putting stumbling blocks on people. They,
Putting
you
stumbling
have
blocks.
the law has been fulfilled by Jesus. So
Yep.
stop trying to force it back on people. And that really says to me that Peter was a man, although
Mm-hmm.
he was, anointed by God, and he was, you know, the rock that Jesus was building his church on. He was still just a man.
Sure.
And sometimes, I was just talking to Cecilia about this. Why do we have churches or big cathedrals or whatever, like St. Peter's, St. this, St. that? Why isn't it just house of God? I think that elevation of certain people, you need to realize that although he was God's anointed to be the first apostles, he was still just a man who had issues that needed to get worked out. I think you had asked me earlier, like, how you doing? Like, lately I've been real miserable,
Mm-hmm.
and just spiritual attacks.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, like, I'm struggling with this. I can't do this. But then I can look at him and think to myself, he was just a man, just like I'm just a man. Sometimes we need a cleansing, a punch. Sometimes you
Yeah.
gotta like wake up. You're going to the left, you're going to the right, you're whatever. You need to walk the narrow path. And this just like what we were talking about, we all had things that we need to. We're never, I don't know. You're never just perfect. You all have things that need to get worked out, and
Never gonna be
so
perfect. Yeah.
I think that discounting God's things that God has done, whether it's for the Jews or whether it's for whoever,
Yeah.
discounting those things because you don't like the people who celebrate it is just, these are the kind of things that when Jesus said, "Hey, we cast out demons in your names. We did this in your name," and he said, "I never knew you." These are the things that will cause people to be that way because you don't like Jews because you're a Christian. Whatever
Mm.
it is.
Yeah.
I think these are the kind of things that just they're just stumbling blocks for people.
They really are. They're very in. Um, you know, I just want to take a real quick break for just a second. There's people watching us on our YouTube channel. Really encourage you, if you'd like to get on the conversation on our YouTube channel, go ahead and put that question in our comment section. Love to have you be a part of what we're doing here today. And if you have any questions, go ahead and let us know about it. And from time to time, we'll look over and hopefully be able to get involved in. And if you don't want to get in conversation, that's fine too. Let us know by just write to us at thisweekinprophecy at gmail.com. It's thisweekinprophecy at gmail.com. Aaron, there was a something has been happening in America right now, and it's really been disturbing, to tell you the truth. The Trump administration has been trying to rein in a lot of anti-Semitism in America, and now it has worked its way all the way to Harvard University, where I mean you've had it in colleges here and there, but it got to Harvard, and Harvard basically is you know probably one of the most prestigious schools, if not in definitely in America, might be in the world. It's just a prestigious school, a lot of money, and it was started as many of these Ivy League schools were started out as places where priests were, you know, or men of God were taught how to be priests, how to be, and now Harvard has turned its back on Christianity. It's turned its back on anything that has to do with God. And the president has threatened them. He said, "Look, guys, if you guys don't get your stuff together, you're gonna have a serious issue here." And he's told other colleges this, and they said, "Okay, well, we'll get into line." But Harvard has basically said, "No, we don't care. We don't care if you take our federal funding away from us." So, is this a sign that even the most prestigious colleges, which were once again Christian colleges, these were places where Christians went to get educated? What is this a sign of? What do you? I mean, what in your opinion?
Well, okay, hold on. Let's look at the beginning. So Harvard,
Mm-hmm.
right, was a school for it was actually not just seminary school, but if you wanted to be a politician,
Mm-hmm.
you had to learn at yeah, at Harvard, which taught you law and political, how to be a senator, but it also taught you Christian values, and
Mm.
that was what Harvard was about. Anybody who wanted to be a lawyer, politician, whatever, they went to Harvard, but also they entwined like God's law with American law, right? Because we can look and see the balance of powers and the equal blind justice. Those are God's law. That's stuff out of the Bible. So they taught you Bible, theology and law. Well, so yes, Harvard is a very prestigious school. It is very you say you went to Harvard and that people know like, okay, that's somebody who's going to be who's disciplined. You know what I mean? And so with this, uh, uh, seeping in of darkness, right? We're no longer going to be the Harvard that we're going to be the Harvard that supports Islamic terrorists or whatever it is, right? And and I think they've don't I it's like the alumni of Harvard are rich, wealthy, powerful people,
Mm-hmm.
and they think that if we fine, you're not going to tell us what to do now. They can fall back on the alumni, which who knows how that's going to work out for them. I don't really know, but maybe those alumni don't want to have anything to do with that. It's such a big political thing right now that you're going to ruin my business. You're going to whatever it is. So I think it's just darkness. It's creeped in. I mean, it started in the colleges, right? It started back in the 70s in
Mm-hmm.
universities, and those kids that you saw then are now leaders and running this country, and professors and deans of these prestigious universities. They don't forget, they didn't just go away from that socialist, communist kind of schooling they got, or what they learned in the 70s, or 60s, or whatever it is. But um, just to let it seep into these prestigious schools, they're going to ruin it. They're going to ruin the name of Harvard.
Yeah, I think so. The scary thing about it, and some of you probably saw me doing some work. We were running out of space on our hard drive here. Um, what I see happening here, which is kind of scary, is that America was a country founded upon Christian ethics, Christian morals. Our laws are founded upon our way of life, our way of living, our moral backing in this country is not. It's not built upon Muslims. It's not built upon Muhammad or any. Not built upon Buddha. It's built upon Jesus Christ. So, what our country our country, I guess, Aaron, is our country being so influenced by people who are non Christians that America is starting to lose its social, moral, Christian, Judeo Christian ethic um, um, underpinning? Is it? Are we starting to lose that in America?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%. You
Mm-hmm.
can see the very beginnings of this, what you're talking about, losing this way of life, right? What we, when I was a kid, prayer was an option always to anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, something happened, I'm having a hard pray. Even though my family were not Christians at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't they just didn't want to have anything to do with that. However, me being me, I kind of thought that prayer was, this is the way it is. And people would talk about Jesus, and you knew the Bible, and when somebody would say a Christian person, you knew that, like, it's probably a good guy. But now, um, we see this. It started in Europe. It started in France and England. And look at the problems they're having now. I watch a show. I have a BritBox, on my
Mm-hmm.
TV, and British TV is very different than American TV. They don't have the stuff that we have. Or maybe it's just not on BritBox. I don't know. But like the horrible movies, the dark movies, the sexualized movies, the this, that. They don't really, I don't see a lot of it on there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I like it. So, but they do have a lot of kind of like cops,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I watch these like British cop style shows, and right now I'm watching one, and it's just about women. Like, there's more women on the force than there was 10 years ago. On the, there are more women cops in England, and so I'm watching, and they're showing things that they go to, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, drug dealers, this, that, and it's usually, and especially like domestic violence, and it's usually these people that have moved in, and they're mostly, this is just an observation, I'm not saying that, that's what it is. I'm saying that from my observation of watching these shows, it's usually like the domestic violence, the drugs, they're all foreigners,
Yeah.
all of them, from
Mm-hmm.
wherever they're from. But now you see, right? So it's slowly creeping in, and the British people are not. They're fighting it back against it. They don't want this, but of course, you see the news saying, "Oh, they're just looking for a better life." But when you watch the actual thing, you're
Yeah.
seeing what these people are doing. So now here in the United States, it's crept into the government,
Yeah.
and you see like certain states like Michigan, like
Mm-hmm.
the Muslim community is so big there, and they're pushing to have Sharia law where they live. And then you
Yes.
have New Jersey, where this town in New Jersey is all ran by Muslims. All It's now what they call a Muslim stronghold.
Yeah.
That's what the people in the city call it. The leaders of the city. So it's slowly creeping in everywhere, all over the country, slowly, slowly. But with that, like, I mean, is it eroding? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
slowly eroding away.
Yeah. So the So the next part of that question is, what do we as Christians do? And now here's the problem: is that, as you were saying, we've got a growing group of people who come to America. Okay, nothing wrong with people coming to America, bringing their beliefs or anything. It's the way it's always been in America. Um, we've got sections in New York that are all Italian. You got sections in the Appalachians, which is all people from Holland or whatever. You just got sections all over America where there are people like this. But the 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 thing that makes every all of them um, uh, be able to work together is they generally are Christians, though. Even if they're Italian, guess what? They're generally Italian, Christian Italians. Okay, people from Holland. Okay, they're generally a sect of Christianity going this way. Now you have a group of people who are coming to America who are not. Their way of belief is antithetical to America. It is total opposite of America. But here's the problem: not so much that they are, because there's a lot of people who don't believe in Jesus in America. But you've got people who live here in America who go, yeah, let them do it. Yeah, bring down the government. Yeah, bring it all down. Bring it. I'm going, wait a minute. Oh, hold. I don't know if you guys realize what they're trying to do here. They are literally trying to destroy America. The America that you grew up in, the reason why you got your Levi's shirt, you got your Levi's jeans, you can turn on your MTV and go to your store and buy your thing flat of chicken wings. It's because of America, because of Americans, because of people who believe in a certain way of life. You want people who are coming in here that likes Sharia law, which means all you women that are out there screaming and yelling, okay, you Jew bashing people, you won't be doing that anymore because you're under Sharia law, which means you're not going to even be able to learn. You're not going to be able to go to school. I don't think these people realize what they are asking for in America. Am I wrong?
No. Why do you think it starts in the universities?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you have a young, impressionable mind,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is always looking. I need a cause. I need something to be behind. I need something. Not everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but let's say a good group of people, right? And they need something to be behind. In the 60s, it was we're going to hate the government because of Vietnam. But if you see the same thing, they were promoting communism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam is a communist country. They were promoting communism. We have slowly over time, with this slow drip as a nation, let this slow drip eat away at our values, right? And it wasn't like, I mean, it wasn't just like, here it is, I'm here now, we're going to do this. It was very slowly. We're going to train the younger generation, and then they're going to rule. They're going to be the leaders one day, and that's when it's going to be easier
Mm-hmm.
to bring. And then you see this generation that's coming up now. It's just easy for them to put them on that path of destruction of the country. 2020 was the biggest in your face, blatant, we're going to destroy you,
Yeah.
right? You had statues torn down. White people is the problem.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Everything that this country stood for was being, but you had this side of the country that was like, get right behind them. Yeah, yeah, here
Yeah.
we go. But like, if you are smart, not even smart. I'm saying, I don't want to say that. I'm sorry. If your eyes were open, like, if let's we were talking about this earlier. People took whatever this pastor. I was talking with a friend of mine. We were talking about why this is the way it is, And so you have, somebody comes up with a system, or a move of God happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that, let's even talk about Pentecostalism, right? A move of God happens, and they said, well, this is how it's going to be. This is the way it is now. This is how God works now. But they don't move with this. You see the Spirit, you see it in that moment, but you don't move when the Spirit moves. You stay where the Spirit is, and you don't so you don't change with it. So now that move of the spirit became a doctrine, and that doctrine became a denomination, and then that denomination became what everybody, then it splits, and we don't like that, we don't like that, instead of moving to the next stage, right? So these things, these are the way people's eyes are closed to things.
Yeah.
So in the country, they would use your freedoms to give you say, well, that we should, you could worship any god, and we're going to make you, we're going to put it in your face, but your god, the Christian god, we don't want to see the cross statues, we don't want to see the 10 commandments in our
Mm-hmm.
school, we don't want to see it in the government, but we're going to make sure that you definitely respect our um,
Mm-hmm.
just idol, our wooden idol.
Sure.
Like you could see it so good during the riots where there was a whole group of people, and it was in LA, and
Yeah.
all these, the writers come to the National Guard and the cops and like, look, just kneel with us in solidarity. And so like, okay, they all kneeled, but one man was standing up in the crowd, and I was like, you know what? They were kneeling to this wooden idol of this man who was killed. They made a
Mm.
wooden statue of the man. This is now the wooden idol made by man's hands. It doesn't matter like what happened to the man, like all those things were tragic.
Sure.
The man died. It's tragedy.
Yeah.
But now they had taken this and said, this is now our idol. We're
Destroy
gonna
idol.
we're gonna destroy everything for this wooden idol we have built out of this man. And so everybody was kneeling. The cops, the guard, and the protesters were all kneeling. What do you kneel? Why would you kneel in front of someone? Who do you kneel in front of?
Because
Do
they
you kneel
are
in front of God?
worshiping him.
I
They are worshiping.
100%, but they didn't see it.
No,
Their eyes
they
aren't
didn't see it.
open. But one
Mm-mm.
man stood up in the middle of them, and he's just like, he didn't say anything, whatever. He just didn't do it. And I thought to myself, how many people there know God,
Yes.
maybe read the Bible, were Christians, and we're still doing this, not realizing their eyes are closed to what's happening, the slow drip
Drip.
over time of
It is.
eroding. And so anyways, it's just
Well, here, let me jump in here. I'm
yeah,
seeing this slow erosion of Christianity, and
yeah,
how you can see it in the marketplace. You've got a group of people now who are actually cheering for murderers. There was a lady, and I was reading an article about her earlier, and I can't remember her name. What's her name? She her name is Taylor. Taylor Lawls, I believe is her last name. Okay, and she gets on and she's talking about this guy. What's the guy's name? I remember the guy who
Luigi.
Luigi. So Luigi
Yeah,
shoots the president of one of the healthcare insurers, and you've got all these people that are getting behind this guy. They're going, "Oh, he's so good looking. Oh, he's so good looking." I'm going, you know what? In a lot of people's eyes, Hitler was a good looking guy. Okay, it wasn't. It didn't appeal to me, but hey, some people thought he was. Some people, Charles Manson was a good looking guy. Okay, wasn't my type, but some people thought he was. Luigi Mangione, whatever his last name is, Mangione, whatever his name is.
Mangione.
He's a psychotic killer. But you have people who are cheering for that. Now you also have a group of people, Democrats generally, liberals, who think it's all right, that it's justifiable that you can shoot the president of the United States because they don't like him.
Yeah.
Now, so are we going back? So here's the thing about I think is going on. Are we seeing a rise of that spirit that we saw happen in the 1960s? Okay, and for those of you who don't remember what was going on during the 60s, 1860s, excuse me, 1860s, not the 1960s. There was a spirit that happened that rolled over America. And that spirit was a spirit of racism in America that found its crescendo in the Civil War, where you saw people who justified them enslaving people, and then the conservative party came up, the Republican Party was born, and there was a clash of these titans. Well, you're seeing the same thing now, where people are justifying what they're doing. They're saying, "Well, we don't like you. We don't like Jews. We don't like the way you think. And as a matter of fact, we don't like you to the point where we're going to kill you. We don't like that you're investigating our federal government and finding you might be finding bad things in our country, but we don't like you. So what we're going to do is we're going to firebomb your business. You know, we're going to do everything we can to stop you." Aaron, are we seeing a return of that same spirit that we saw in the 1860s?
I do. I see it. I yeah. When you talked about gosh, I can't remember her name, but that woman, right? She's like, this man stood up and was he was handsome, yes, and he was this and he was a rebel, and this is like that, that mentality
Mm-hmm.
is being infiltrated through the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just that them pining over that man. That was an interview on CNN, right? So that them pining over that man was the media putting this out, right? Because obviously we've seen what they've done to us in the last 8 years. All the lies, but they're still there. There's still people that listen to it and just walk forward with
Yeah.
whatever they say. Doesn't
Sure.
matter if it
Mm-hmm.
was good, bad, whatever. They still like take that and walk forward. So even with this, oh man, we could talk about it more later. But the man who they sent to El Salvador,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
and they're busting. I don't say that. They're kind of busting the president's chops about, oh,
Sure.
are you gonna bring him back? Bring him back, right? But this man was, by two courts already, he was a known MS-13 gang member. It
Sure.
wasn't a mistake, and El Salvador wants to keep him in prison. He's not like they're not gonna give up, and I'm sure Trump's like, oh, you said no, fine, that's what it is. He's not gonna
That's the
push
way it
the
is.
issue,
Sure. Yeah.
right? But what if you look at all the media, right? Maybe not Fox and Newsmax, whatever, but all the
Mm-hmm.
left leaning liberal media, they don't say El Salvadorian MS-13. They say this Massachusetts father. The
Yep.
Massachusetts father is being right. They give him that. Oh man, poor guy. It was a mistake, and his kids are suffering now. So this is them pushing that to weaken the American mind, right? To weaken the values of our country. So we're going to push this, so you're not concentrating on all of us embezzling money in this country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, is it
It's
weak? It's getting weak, and people just fall in line with
they
whatever
are
they're told.
falling
Yeah.
in line with a false narrative. And I love the way the president said this. He said something very interesting during this news conference where he's got all these people, the CNN, all these news people. They're standing there watching this conference, and he's got the president of El Salvador sitting next to him, and he says, you guys ask me these questions. You don't ever say, boy, thank you, Mr. President. Boy, you've taken care of all this and you've taken care of that, or anything. You always focus on all the bad things that are going on in America, and that's the scary part about it, is that these people don't realize that the president has done some great things in America, and and I think we've actually lost Aaron. I think we have.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Your oh there. Oh, because your picture
I
stopped.
can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got stuck there for a
Your
second.
picture stopped. So the president is saying, why can you guys not? Um, why can't you see the good things that are going on in this country? Well, because there's a spiritual darkness that is over them. There's a veil that's literally over their heads, and once that veil's there, they cannot see that. They're so full of hate. They're so full of my big word, vitriol, right? They're so full of it that they couldn't see good, even if right now they came up with a cure for cancer and it came from somebody they didn't like, they would hate that. I dare to say that if Jesus Christ walked the earth today, he would be as persecuted today as he was back in the days when he was a
Hmm.
kid. Am I right or I'm
Yeah,
wrong?
yeah. No, he spoke words, and people didn't. Not everybody, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There was people that saw it as truth, but he spoke truth, and the establishment of that time, they did not want to hear it. No, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
They did not want to hear it. But
Yeah.
I kind of go back to something you said earlier. What should we do about it, right?
Yeah.
What can you do about it? And you know, in the Bible, we're supposed to speak the truth, right? We speak the word, right? But we speak truth. Okay. If your eyes are open and you see what's happening, if God is giving you wisdom, if He gives you the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you speak truth. But that I think, like, when people say, "Oh, we want to see a move of God, we want to see revival," that begins with God working, right? We're not doing anything. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should. We're doing something right now, you and me, right here on
Mm-hmm.
this podcast. We're speaking truth about what's happening, and we're speaking truth about what God does.
Yeah.
And so, we're speaking His word as well. So, with that, right? What does He say to you if you go and you go to somebody's house and you give them the gospel and they don't want to receive it? What does He say to do? He says you dust off your shoes and move to the next place. I think we have this mindset of, I need to fix everything. But
Mm-hmm.
with starting that move in the spirit, and what we've seen over the last year is so many people are being exited from their positions because of the dark background, right? And in oh gosh, I don't remember what it was. I think it was Leviticus. I can't exactly remember. I will look it up for next time. But the Israelites were going using the restroom in their camp.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, I can't walk through you while you do this. You need to take it outside of the camp. You need to go do these things far away from my presence can't be around the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that today, right? And I mean, who's really doing it? God's moving it all. We're seeing it happen. Things are being let known. Things are, in the government, in local government, in the body of Christ. People are being exposed in a way that, like, well, I mean, I didn't really do anything. God is pushing people to say, this is what happened. This is what's been happening. And He's putting His people that He's ordained, anointed, whatever, however you want to
Mm-hmm.
say, in positions to expose this. There was something that we never talk about, or people never talk about. During the January 6th, somebody stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop, right?
Oh.
And nobody ever said anything. Nobody ever found it. It's just out there. Do we honestly think that there's nothing in that on that laptop that is like, oh, it just shows she's a great senator in there? I doubt it. But
Mm.
nobody's mentioned it. Nobody's
I've
even
never heard
meant.
that. So somebody stole her laptop.
Yeah, during January 6th, you didn't know that?
I
Yeah,
didn't
somebody
know that. I
stole
never
the
heard that.
laptop off her desk, and they were like, for like a couple of weeks talking about this laptop. You better bring it back. We're gonna get you. The CIA, whoever's gonna get you. And then it just went silent, and nobody's talked about it. They never found it. They don't know who took it.
Hmm.
But now I feel like, with these exposures that we're seeing, right, that this is, these things are being brought to light all over the place.
Uh huh.
Eventually, just like the Biden laptops, these things will come out.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
well, they're definitely. The word talks about this. It says, "Guess what? The things that were hidden they'll come to light." You'll see this. I really believe that America is seeing a big shift. One of the things that we've talked about before, and we just got a couple more minutes here. This is probably a longer conversation, but one of the things you brought up before was that you really felt like that we were turning a corner, and that America was actually going to see better days. Um, do you think part of that, I would assume, is going to be because we're going to see we're going to start hearing about things that people thought were hidden, and they were going to stay hidden. They're going to come to light. We on a previous show we were talking about these NGOs, right? These NGOs that are really front organizations for the government. That the government uses these NGOs, these non governmental organizations, as ways of spending money, getting money in a way that Congress couldn't do if you just tried to do it in the beginning. If you tried to do it the right way. The same thing. Or do you think that you're going to start seeing people exposing these NGOs maybe, or these other organizations, or something similar to that? Is that what you're saying?
Do you want me to read you the dream? I have to find it, but I can tell it to you.
Sure.
So, there was two dreams, and I don't remember when we talked about them. It was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can look it up, but that what you were talking about, right? That whole using the NGOs,
Mm-hmm.
paying people like what's that? Stacey Abrams $2 billion, right? Paying her foundation, who she's the head of, $2 billion, or I was more than maybe it was more than I don't remember,
No,
but
no, it's $2 billion.
a lot of
It's a
money.
lot of
Yeah,
money.
two. What is okay? So this is it. They're embezzling money from the government, right? So with that, the two dreams. One dream was um, that all of these people who were in the government who were doing these things were in a like a big group, and the Americans, like patriot Americans, we
Yeah.
were all standing around them, and we were holding hands, and there was a judge convicting them of
Oh,
treason,
okay.
and he was like, and it was that, gosh, it's so funny that you say this, because I was thinking I need to bring this up again, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that exactly what you said is this going to happen. So, and I saw people in there, and he said to gosh dang it, what's her name, Rashida Tlaib.
Uh-huh.
She was crying, her face was wet, she's crying, and he's like, okay, now that you've been convicted of treason, you have two options. We can send you back to the country that you came from. And then he said Palestine or Somalia, or you can be sentenced to death. And she said, she stood up, like, fight, like almost like rebellious, say, you can't do this to me, I'm an American, that's that. And he said, okay, death it
Death it
is,
is.
and sent her away to be executed.
Yeah.
But in that dream, he said specifically Palestine or Somalia.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about these Muslim people who are coming in and infiltrating, and I just saw her name again, Ilhan Omar. Now she's going to run for Senate. There's an open Senate seat, and
Okay.
I'm running for Senate now, so we're going to get in there.
No.
Okay, so the second dream was I was standing on the shore of Lake Mead, which for some reason God shows me a lot of boats in my dreams, because I think that's what I do. I fix
Because
boats,
you.
and so like I think it's just he can relate. I can relate to it
Sure.
easily,
Uh-huh.
understand. So I saw a big party out in the middle of Lake Mead, and all these boats were tied together, and I was just standing there watching, and you could just saw there was just yelling or having a party, music, and people were drinking, and the cops were going out to the party, bringing them back one at a time.
Oh.
These people, and they were young kids, right? It was actually like the sons of the elite. It wasn't the elite itself; it was the children of the elite, which
Wow.
you know kind of brings me back to thinking that the sons, like the children of the wicked one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And we know where that goes, right? So,
Sure.
so he's bringing these young, 20s, 25, maybe 20 to 25, and they're, for some reason it stood out to me that like the first one didn't have any a shirt. He was just wearing board shorts, like when you go to the lake and you swim, you just wear these board shorts. And he brought him in and he handcuffed him and took him away. And I was watching. Then another one, they brought him in, and I was like, "What did they do? Were they being stupid out at the party?" And he's like, "No, no, no, they're being arrested for treason." And I thought to myself,
Mm.
well, I hope that he is guilty until proven innocent, not the way it's been done lately. Oh, you're guilty. You need to prove your innocence. No,
Sure.
we're going to prove you're guilty, but we're going to consider you innocent. That's like
Yeah.
God's law, right?
Yes.
Let's go back to our justice system with blind justice. But these two dreams were so vivid. I can remember, I can see Rashida Tlaib right now. I can
Yeah.
see that kid in his board shorts. the children of the wicked one. We know what that is. We know what the people who build idols of silver and wood. We know who they
Yeah.
are. And it was so specific, Somalia or Palestine. And just like all we've been talking about today, same thing, the infiltration. Now you're convicted of treason. We can to send you back there, or you can die. Pick one.
Pick one.
So however it works out doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that this is what we're going to see, but however it works out, Americans are encircling them. We're
Yes.
slowly encircling their camp and are going to squeeze them together. And
I
you may
like it.
not see it, like people's eyes have to be open. You have to speak truth. If they receive it, then receive it. If not, move on to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
There
not
you
going
go.
to fix anybody. I'm not going to fix anything. Either you're going to receive it,
Or
God's
you're
going to
not.
touch you and you're going to say, "Yes, I'm going to go with that," or he's going to touch you and you're going to push it away. That's up to you.
That's the way it is.
All we can do is speak truth.
Praise God. Well, good stuff, Aaron. We're out of time, brother. I cannot wait to catch up on this again next week. And I want to, before we close though, I want to just say one more time. Aaron has this truck, or this 36 Dodge D2. Would you think I wasn't going to say anything about this?
I don't know
He's
what
got
you're
a
doing.
D2, 14s in the front, 16s in the back. Plum crazy purple.
Oh man.
Plum crazy purple. Okay? You got to, if you can get a little 10th inch, 10th degree, you know what I mean. Send it to us. Send us an email at This Week in Prophecy, and we'll get that straight to Aaron. Aaron, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We'll see you next week, okay?
Yeah, bye now.
Bye bye. And folks, once again, wasn't that awesome? As Aaron was saying, that yeah, America's going through a shaking. Okay, it is Easter week, you guys. I really pray that you get together at your local church, your local synagogue. Begin to pray about America, about what God is going to do in America, because we still live in the greatest land there is. We can't give up on America, folks. Even though it looks like it's going crazy and it's gonna crumble, we can't give up on this great land. So definitely be praying for America. Anyways, this has been Pastor Sherman Ray for This Week in Prophecy. Thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast, folks. We will see you again next week for more of This Week in Prophecy. You guys have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Easter. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.